Hello everyone, and welcome to another puzzle challenge video with ChessUniversity.com. My name's Ryan Murphy, and I'm going to start the video off by going over the solution to yesterday's puzzle before we present our intermediate difficulty puzzle for today. And the puzzle for yesterday is on the screen now, so it's black to play and find the best continuation. This is from one of my Blitz games, as I mentioned in the previous video. So yeah, just if you haven't solved it already, if you haven't seen this one, if you didn't check out the previous video, do take a moment to pause if you want to solve it, because I'm going to continue with the solution. So the way black should play here is bishop d3, and this creates the skewer of the queen to the rook. And in the game, white continued with the move queen g4, trying to eventually put some pressure against g7, but after I took the rook, it was too much, and black was winning. But had white played, I think, a slightly more stubborn move, which I was expecting, queen f3, I think this is the best move. This prevents me from taking the rook, because the queen takes a8 check, and then the bishop will be taken on f1 in the near future, leaving white with an extra minor piece and a winning position. So black shouldn't rush and grab the rook right away, but instead I was planning on playing the move rook b8, where I think, yeah, it's a lot of trouble, because not only is the rook hit, the pawn is also hit, and it's not possible to cover the pawn with a move like rook b1 because of the bishop. So yeah, basically I think black will be taking in the near future on b2 with a fairly decisive infiltration from what I can tell, and black can still complete development, bishop e7, and then short castle. So yeah, if you saw bishop d3, this is the primary idea, good job, that's basically the solution. And then if you saw even further that queen f3, you can play rook b8 and you've got everything under control, plus you're going to be taking this pawn, that's also very good. So congrats if you guys solved it. And now I want to move on to our new puzzle. Okay. So here it's black to play and find the best continuation. Black really needs to find something good here, else white's up a pawn already with a very dangerous knight on e6 that's threatening all sorts of things. So really this is a do or die moment in a way for black. So yeah, try to solve this one also. I'll be presenting the solution for it in tomorrow's video, but obviously you have a whole day to solve and make your comments either on YouTube, or if you want to make a chance for reward points on chessuniversity.com, do visit the link in the description of the YouTube video. Because if you make your comment on chessuniversity.com on the official post, that's how you can get reward points. You just got to beat me to the upload of the next video. So, all right. So yeah, black to play, find the best continuation. I'll show how the game got to this point. This is actually only move 7 for black, which is pretty easy to understand. Still the opening, lots of pieces not developed. Both sides have their kings in the center, so that all makes sense. This is a game from one of my students, played on, I believe it was chess.com, and yeah, it was a correspondence game between two sort of beginner level players, but it's not a trivial tactic, and that's why I put it in the intermediate difficulty section of the week. So let's see how we got here. So white started with e4, black replied e5, then we had knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. This is the Italian. These arrows are to indicate that black doesn't have to worry about the move knight g5 here, because the queen can simply take. Even though I've seen this happen in many a scholastic game. And there's even a, well, quote unquote, there's a trick here that some newer players will fall for, which is where white will play the move d4, black will say, ooh, tasty pawn, take it with the bishop or the knight or the pawn, and they lose their queen because of the discovered attack by the bishop. But in fact, after d4, queen takes g2, black's just completely winning because the rook is hanging. If the rook moves, then this is hanging, and it all just kind of goes downhill from there. You can also take on d4 on the previous move. But anyway, yeah, so knight g5 not possible, which means that this f7 point is very secure at the moment. But d3 is played by white, which now introduces extra coverage of the square. Now the bishop will support the knight should the knight decide to go to g5. This is something I had to explain to my student because he was confused as to how he got hit by knight g5, even though he had that move covered a move ago. But yeah, after d6, knight g5 is somewhat annoying if you're not prepared to deal with it. But this is a good question to ask you guys. How do you think black should defend against this? Because the method chosen in the game is very tricky, and I don't really think in general it's the correct way to defend against this kind of a threat. So yeah, check your intuition here. How would you defend against the twofold attack on the f7 square? All right, so there's actually more than one way that's quote-unquote objectively okay. if you ask a computer, but there are some that are way more messy than they need to be. I think the simplest move in this position, which also follows opening principles, is knight h6, because you're getting a piece into play, you're defending the threat directly, and you're getting ready to castle. The downside of this move, of course, is that the knight on h6 is pretty bad in general. It doesn't have very many ways to develop, and then after black castles, the pin on the f7 pawn is going to be difficult to deal with. But I think just like from an understanding point of view, this one's like the easiest to play. Bishop e6 was chosen in the game, which I didn't like because it gives up a pawn. And it could have been given up in a way that was not that easy for black to deal with. For example, takes, and then a move like queen g4 looks really annoying. Attacking here, and then also threatening g7 in some cases later once the knight moves. So this looked pretty devastating, but fortunately it didn't happen. Going back once again, instead of bishop e6 or knight h6, there's another move which, if you turn on your computers, it will suggest, which is queen f6, counterattacking on f2, and keeping the defense of the f7 square. And the idea is, if white doesn't take on f7, black wants to now play maybe bishop e6 when they're not just losing a pawn for nothing. So let's say white castles, bishop e6, and we're good. An additional defense, which is kind of funny, is knight d8, but that's for those who really value the bishop pair over development to the extreme. And now you might be ready to play a move like knight e6 or something. But I would prefer to play bishop e6 just to get the pieces out, maybe long castle next. Now, of course, you should ask yourself, if you're going to even think about a move like queen f6, like what happens if they just take my pawn? Because, of course, these two pieces are less valuable than the queen, so they should be able to take on f7. Now, obviously, knight takes f7 is taboo because this is mate. So the only move you really have to consider is the check. And now after the king moves, you can sidestep either direction. King f8 is the suggested move by the engine. Now it's big trouble, because apparently if white just castles, and not just apparently, but the thing to notice here is the bishop needs the knight to stay here to defend it. So if white defends the mating threat by castling, after h6, which by the way is the only way to punish this, we remove the defender. We either take the knight or the knight moves and then we take the bishop. So that is why white would be in trouble if they took on f7. So that's a nice tactical detail also. But like I said, in any case, bishop e6 was played in the game, and after takes, the knight took, and that leads us to our critical moment. So this is where it's black to play and find the best continuation. Hopefully you guys have some good work solving this, and I'll be back tomorrow with a solution and then a new puzzle. Thanks for watching.